Hi friends! I hope you had a wonderful spring break. It feels good to be back here with you today. We are going to be making some painted rocks. You can either make them into story stones, that's why I made this one, or you can just do a beautiful painting on it. You can make it just some beautiful colors. This is one that Frankie did yesterday. Just kind of some, like a galaxy of colors. And then this is one that Annie did. She just mixed all her colors and painted it green, and it looks like a pickle to me. So that's what we're gonna do today. Let me tell you what you need, and then we'll pause. You need at least one rock. It can be any kind of rock. The smoother ones are definitely easier to paint on, but anything you have is fine. You'll need some paint. I have mine here in these little like yogurt lids. And you'll need at least one paintbrush. If you just have one paintbrush, get some water. This water looks really gross, but it's just because I've already rinsed my brush in it. So you can rinse your brush as you go if you're using more than one color. One note about paint, acrylic paint works best for this because it doesn't come off as easily, and it's a little thicker, so the colors show up a little more easily. But I don't have any at my house, so I'm just using some like washable tempera paint that my kids have. So whatever you have is fine. Just know that if you use, if you're not using acrylic paint, these won't like last for a long time if you put them outside or in water, if you wanted to put them in water, but they'll be fine for inside. So paint, a brush, and a rock. Those are your three main things. I put some like old newspaper down to protect the table, even though my table is already very painty. So let's pause, get your stuff, and then meet me back right here at my dining room table. Okay, ready? Let's do it. So I'm gonna do this one. I'm making mine as story stones, which I'll explain a little bit. I know at least some of you have done something called a round robin, where one person starts a story and then everybody else in the group finishes it. So like, pretend you're with your family. So I'll pretend that I'm with my family. So say I would start a story, and then Eric, my husband, would do the next part of the story, and then Frankie would do a part, and then Annie would do a part, and then we could keep going or just do one time. So basically it's like every person contributes one little bit to the story, and you usually end up with a pretty silly, wacky story. So with these story stones, what we would do is each person telling the story would get one or two stones. It just depends on how many you've got. So so far I've done a car and I've done a sun. So each person would get one stone, and as they're telling their story in the round robin, you have to use what's on your stone as part of your story. So it can be kind of tricky if you have if somebody is telling a story about a sunny day, and who knows, the next person might say, and then there was a car chase and it was wild and the cars were racing. And then if the next thing is a turtle, maybe the turtle's crossing the road and oh my gosh, the cars have to slam on their brakes. Could be anything. So you might want to think about that while you're making your story stones, like what could make a funny or interesting story. Maybe I'll do a turtle. I'll do a turtle since I just said that on this stone. Yeah, so just kind of pictures of stuff that might make a fun story. Or you can just do can just paint whatever you want on them. That's totally an option too. So I tilted the camera a little so maybe you can see this better. I'm gonna do some green for my turtle's shell. I'm gonna make it a little bigger, make it take up more of the rock. Yeah, so I think that's a fun thing to do with these stones, is use them to tell a story. You can also do it with yourself. You can you could turn the rocks over and then pick one at random, and that has to be what your story is about, which would be really fun too. Okay, so I'm just adding a little white, and I'm gonna add a little yellow too, and I'm not even rinsing my brush because I'm not too worried about mixing my colors right now. Just to add a little depth to this turtle shell. But you just do whatever speaks to you. You don't have to do a turtle, you don't have to do a car, or just anything that you love that would be fun for you. I'm gonna use a skinnier brush. It's so hard to get this thing to focus on little stuff. Okay, you can't really see, but I'm using a skinnier brush now to do the legs and head and things. I'm gonna mix my green with a tiny bit of blue just to make it a slightly different color for those limbs. And the head. I guess this is going to be the head. I didn't really have a turtle planned when I started this, but since I mentioned turtles, it seemed like that's what I should do. I'm going to give it a little tail. Some little legs. And one thing is, if you want, you can always go back. You can let your first layer of paint dry, and then you could go back and like add a little face or the ground around the turtle, or a blue sky, whatever you want. Sometimes it's easier to let the first bit dry and then add on. You can also use a Sharpie. So you could use a Sharpie to go back in and do a little eye and a mouth. Or you could outline stuff with your Sharpie, anything you want. So that's really it. There we go. Yeah, just painting a rock that you find outside to turn it into something different. In this case, a story stone, or just something beautiful that you can keep, or you could share with your neighbors. You could put it outside where a neighbor could find it. Anything that speaks to you and feels good to you. So that's it. I'll say goodbye with my little stones. I hope that you have a lovely day and enjoy painting your rocks. I'll see you next time.